Post-industrialization, when more women entered the workforce, it became cheaper for the employer to hire a woman because it was cheaper for him because he had to pay less to her. This created a lot of unrest at the workplace. The man felt, today my friend has lost a job, tomorrow I can also lose a job. And he started harassing the woman. Then we have the story of Bhauri Devi, who she was gang raped. Vishakha guidelines were passed, and that case is known as Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. A woman who is sexually harassed at her workplace has an option of going to the internal committee under the POSH Act. She can also go to the police and file a complaint under the criminal laws. People think they are very cool when they use terms like hot and sexy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It lands them into trouble. So in your official conversations, please stick to smileys, thumbs up and folded hands. You'll never go wrong. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Business Networking with Vipul Bundal. Great start to the new year. Wishing all of you a happy new year. We've had 30 episodes till now, and we've had 30 posh people who have come on this podcast before. And I have a very posh person with me who is going to start the new year with us on the podcast today. And the reason I'm using this posh word again and again is because our guest today is somebody who is in the business of posh. But posh not in the way I meant it, but in terms of being a posh consultant. And POSH, for those who don't know, stands for Prevention of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace. So she's a POSH consultant and a very dear friend and someone whom I wanted to be having on the podcast for a very long time. Slight introduction to Sandya, someone I respect and admire a lot. I like one sentence which she has used very often in our interaction in the past, saying that age is just a number. And the reason I'm saying this is because she started this business of hers in 2019. Company is called POSHsystems.com with the tagline, "We make your workplace safer." And she started this business after she retired from her active career until then, and has since then dedicated herself to creating awareness about POSH and also to help companies and organizations implement POSH compliance, at the same time. Till date, she has trained about 44,000 plus people on the aspects of POSH. And I'll just go through briefly Dr. Sandya's educational background. And she's actually a doctor. She has a BAMS, so Bachelor's in Ayurvedic Medicine. She is a LLM. She's done an advanced diploma in industrial safety. She's done an executive certification in sexual harassment prevention and workplace diversity from NUJS. She has done a train-the-trainer program from the Dale Carnegie Institute. She's done a diploma in cyber law. She has done a PSEA, that is the Prevention of Sexual Exploitation Abuse course from UNICEF. And she has a certification in POSH law from the MSME Technology Development Center in Chennai and a certification in POSH from the Labor Law Institute. And somebody who is unstoppable in terms of equipping herself for her profession. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Sandya.
Thank you so much, Vipul.
Yeah. So, let me start by, although you've trained a lot of people and there is a significant awareness about POSH today, I don't think, but I still feel there is a lot of people who don't know what POSH actually means. I mean, other than of course, the full form of it. And, so if you can just tell us what made the country adopt this law, why was it brought in, and what does it cover?
Okay. Thank you, Vipul, for the wonderful introduction. So the term POSH stands for Prevention of Sexual Harassment, and it is used to denote the act known as Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Now, if I were to reflect back upon why was this act passed, what was the role of the men and women in the past? The men used to go out to work, the women used to stay at home, look after the children, look after the cooking, etc. Even when they ventured out to work, they got jobs which paid less. There were women-centric jobs like, stitching, tailoring, cooking, etc., those kind of jobs. Post-industrialization, when more women entered the workforce, it became cheaper for the employer to hire a woman because it was, cheaper for him because he had to pay less to her. And this created a lot of, unrest at the workplace. In the sense, the man felt today my friend has lost a job, tomorrow I can also lose a job. And he started harassing the woman. He started harassing the woman. The woman either had to accept that or she quit the job and went away. At that point of time, the legal provisions that were available was that she could file a complaint with the police.
Right.
Now, how many women will actually go to the police and file a complaint, right? Not many women. And this is how it was. Then we have the story of Bhauri Devi, who was, she was gang raped. And subsequently, the case was filed, and Vishakha, which was the NGO, took it up. And Vishakha guidelines were passed, and that case is known as Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. I'm not going to elaborate too much on that, but she was gang raped, and this cause was taken up by Vishakha, which said that today this rape has happened with this woman because she went and tried to stop the child marriage. It was in the course of her employment. It could happen with someone else also, right? And there has to be some provision wherein there has to be some safety measures for a woman. She should feel secure. She should have safer workplaces. And there has to be some responsibility, on the government to have some laws as well as, some guidelines need to be passed. And accordingly, the Vishaka guidelines were passed. It cast the duty on the employer to, create provisions, to treat it as a misconduct, create awareness amongst women. So that is the background as far as the POSH Act is concerned. Now, if I were to look at the title is sexual harassment. It covers harassment which is sexual in nature.
Okay.
If the harassment is not sexual, it is not covered under the Act. Of women, only a woman can complain. The Act is not gender neutral as yet. So under the POSH Act, only a woman can complain. At the workplace, it covers incidents of sexual harassment of women which happen at the workplace. If it does not happen at the workplace, it is not covered under the Act. It would get covered under the criminal laws, right? The Act seeks to prevent and prohibit sexual harassment as well as provide a forum for redressal of complaints. And the Act was passed on the 9th of December 2013. So as of now, we have completed 11 years of the POSH Act. A lot of companies believe that, even men can be sexually harassed.
Right.
So they incorporate conditions they incorporate certain clauses in the code of conduct. So in case a man faces harassment or a person who's a transgender faces harassment, they can file a complaint with HR under code of conduct. HR would set up a disciplinary committee and handle those complaints.
Right. So is there any specific guideline in terms of the organization needs to be of a particular size, or it's just universal across the board?
So it is applicable to all organizations. However, for organizations which have 10 employees or more, it is mandatory for them to have an internal committee which handles the complaints under the POSH Act. Having said that, there are some compliances which the employers need to follow. Number one is to have a POSH policy. Second, display posters saying that, zero tolerance for sexual harassment, etc. Third is to have a committee in place. Now, this is an internal forum which is created where a woman employee can go and file the complaints, right? Any woman, any complaint which is coming from a victim, she can go and file a complaint with the internal committee. Right. So these are three. Impanel an external member in the committee. Now, in the committee is comprising of people. They are people who may not have a legal background. They don't have the guidance. They don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge. So the Act provides that there should be an external member who is included in the committee. The duty of the external member is to guide the committee when complaints are being handled. Apart from this, at least one awareness session for the employees, one session for the internal committee, because this internal committee has the powers of a civil court. right? So they need to be trained. Now, if I were to look at judges, what is the education that the judges go through? They would finish, say, graduation is 15, another 3 years, say for law is 18, another 2 years for LLM is 20, and at least 10 to 15 years of practice at the bar. So at least 30 to 35 years of experience. Now, here we have a group of people, employees who are there, who may not have a background of law. So it's very, very important to have them trained properly on what are the legal principles, etc., and ensure that you have an external member in the committee. Every quarter, ICs have a regular meeting. Now, every quarter is a best practice. You should be having IC meetings, that is internal committee meetings, even if there is no complaint. And at the end of the year, that is the calendar year, Jan to December, by 31st Jan, you have to file the annual reports.
Right. Yeah.
So these are the basic compliances that the organizations need to follow.
So, I have a couple of questions which are coming out of this. So, firstly, a lot of organizations in India are, let's say what we call as proprietary driven. They may have 10 or more employees, but, usually there's one boss and everybody else is, the employees only. And, very often, and, I mean, I'm not generalizing, but very often the instances of harassment could be from the boss itself. And,
Yes.
And how do people like you advise them in such situation? Because the boss would definitely be part of the IC in that sense.
No way, not at all.
Okay.
So in case there is also a provision of a local committee which is nominated by the government. So if the complaint is against the employer, it goes to the local committee.
Okay.
Right? The internal committee people have to keep their jobs, right? So they're not going to decide against the boss, isn't it?
Exactly.
So it goes to the local committee. If an organization has got less than 10 employees, it goes to the local committee. POSH Act is also applicable for domestic helpers, a maid servant who works in our houses. If she is sexually harassed, she can also go to the local committee. Right. And the fourth situation where an organization is supposed to have a committee but does not have it. In such cases also, it goes to the local committee. Right. Apart from this, a woman who is sexually harassed at her workplace has an option of going to the internal committee under the POSH Act. She can also go to the police and file a complaint under the criminal laws. She can do both. Okay. The option is with her.
So both can be used.
Yes. So if it's against the employer, she can go to the local committee. She can also go to the police.
Also, another question in this regard was, that these days we have a lot of situations where companies, let's say 80% of the people are working from home. So there's no actual face-to-face contact, and therefore, the cases or complaints of sexual harassment can be extremely subjective in that sense. Okay. So how does, what are the guidelines or best practices that you follow for such companies?
Yes.
Or organizations?
So there is something very interesting that I want to tell you. When we are talking of sexual harassment, let me first tell you what would sexual harassment mean. So for any behavior to amount to an act of sexual harassment, it has to satisfy 3 criteria. Number 1, the behavior is sexual. 2, it is unwelcome. And 3, it happens at the workplace. Now, if A tells B, hey, B, you look really hot, you look sexy, and B smiles and walks away, it is not unwelcome to her. In such case, it will not amount to sexual harassment. A tells C the same thing, and she gets really angry, and she's not happy about it. It is unwelcome to her. In such a case, it will amount to sexual harassment. Now, there is a very interesting definition of the term workplace, because this definition is very important because the foundation of the act rests on this definition. If the harassment of a woman happens at the workplace, it is covered under the act. So what exactly is a workplace? Right. So a workplace is your brick and mortar office where you work, but it also covers extended workplaces. Now, what exactly are extended workplaces? Any place that a woman employee goes in the course of her employment. Right. Now, if I were to ask you what kind of places would a woman employee go in the course of her employment, she could go to a client office for a meeting. She could go to a vendor office. She could go attend an exhibition or a conference or a workshop. Correct. It will also include, she could go for an office party, picnics, offsites, right? It will also cover digital workspaces. Digital workspaces is your work from home scenario,
Right.
wherein, any kind of misbehavior. So the digital workspaces will cover your emails, telephone calls, WhatsApp video calls, WhatsApp chats, group chats, all of them, online calls. Anything inappropriate said in any of these extended workplaces, the woman can file a complaint under the POSH. So you mentioned about work from home scenarios. In case there is inappropriate behavior in any of the digital workspaces, she's talking to a person and he passes an inappropriate remark. It makes her uncomfortable. She can file a
Right.
complaint, right?
Okay.
Person is not properly dressed up, wearing only a banyan and sitting and attending the official call, which makes a woman uncomfortable. She
True.
can say, "I don't like it. Please,
Yeah.
wear something else." So if he doesn't comply, she can go ahead and file a complaint. So this
Right.
is how the work from home scenarios are covered. So this definition of extended workplace is extremely important. It also covers your office cafeteria, your company guest house, a hotel room booked for a woman employee when she's gone for a conference. So
Right.
all these are extended workplaces. So what the act has done is it has stepped out from the, workplace is not only a brick and mortar office.
Right.
It covers not only things harassment which happens within the office, but also covers harassment which can happen outside the office
Outside.
where a woman has gone in the course of her employment. It will
True.
also cover transportation provided by the employer.
By
So
the
if a co-traveler misbehaves or the driver misbehaves, she can file a complaint under the POSH.
Okay, I was going to come to that because there are a lot of cases where BPO employees
Yes,
travel by
yes,
taxi.
yes,
So
yes,
does it also cover, let's say, security guard who's technically not an employee of the
yes.
company,
Yes.
or
So
let's say the cafeteria staff, or let's say the housekeeping staff, or does it
yes.
protect the housekeeping staff because they could
Okay.
also become victims,
Okay. Let's first understand whom does the act protect.
right?
The act protects all women who enter your workplace. It could be a co-worker, it could be a contract worker, it could be a visitor, it could be a client, it could be a volunteer, it could be a candidate coming for an interview. Any woman who enters your workplace, if she is sexually harassed, she can file a complaint under the POSH Act. So even if a female security guard is harassed or a female housekeeping staff is harassed, she can file a
Right.
complaint under the POSH Act. If
Okay.
it's a visitor who walks in, she's harassed, she can also file a complaint.
Okay. What about the reverse case where, let's say, a visitor uh, indulges in a act of harassment with, say, an employee of the organization
Okay.
or an employee of the security staff or something like that,
Okay. Okay.
where
So
both
the
are
way
technically not employees of the
so
company.
under the POSH Act, the word employee will cover a co-worker, a contract worker, an apprentice, probationer, trainees, a person who is employed temporarily or ad hoc employee or a part-time employee. All these are covered as employees under the POSH Act. So even if a contract worker is harassed, say by an employee of the company, she can file a complaint. So the way this works is if the woman is harassed, she can file a complaint with the committee.
Right.
If the if the person is an contract employee or if the person is a contract employee, also the IC will take it up. Now, if it's an employee, if the harasser is an employee from a different company,
Right.
IC will forward the complaint to the IC of the respondent's company.
Right. Okay.
If it is an outsider, when I use the word respondent, it means a harasser. The harasser could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be a person who's a transgender.
Right.
If it's an outsider who walks in, he harasses an employee of your company. She files a complaint with the committee. The complaint will be forwarded by the IC to the police within 7 days to register a complaint under the criminal laws.
Right.
Because can you take any action against an outsider? You really can't.
True. Right.
Even if the harasser is from a different company and you find that he is guilty, can you punish him in any way? You can't.
Yeah.
So IC forwards it to the IC of the harasser's company. If it's an outsider, it goes to the police. If
Okay.
it is
So that
from the organization, it is handled by the IC.
right. So that was going to be my next question because you may have two good ICs on both sides, but are they
Correct.
allowed to coordinate or uh,
Having
correspond
said
with
that,
each other?
yeah, having said that, now say for example, you have a situation where you have contract employees and you are the principal employer,
Right.
right? these staff are working in your organization, on your premises. In such cases, the IC of the organization will handle the complaint because technically that
It's
contract
on their
worker also falls under the definition of employee.
understand. So if that organization is the office in the definition, I mean, has created the space where the act has happened, you have to the IC has to act on. And what it has to do depends on, of course,
Yeah,
whether he's a
yeah.
direct
So,
employee.
see, if it happens outside, she can still file a complaint, isn't it?
Correct.
So the IC will look at it and then take it up.
Oh, okay, great. So there's one question which has come in on the group, on the Hinkley group. So, and which is related. So I'll just take it quickly. So Lavanya Singh asked this question. The question is, how has the rise of remote work influenced the workplace harassment, and how does POSH address that? I think how it
I
has addressed, you've
answered that.
already said
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but have you seen any rise or increase or decrease over the last 2 years? I
The
mean,
complaints
what
are
is your
increasing. Genuine complaints are also coming in. Frivolous complaints are also coming in.
okay? So let's get to some impact. What if an organization doesn't follow the provisions? I mean, this is what they should do. But
Yeah,
what if they don't do it? Like I said, I mean, if the harasser is the boss, for example,
right.
or there could be some other reason why somebody doesn't want to do it, or they say, don't take it seriously.
They
It
couldn't be
has to,
bothered. They
yeah.
couldn't be bothered.
So there could be various reasons why somebody doesn't take any action
Right,
on it, or So what happens in such a case?
right. So I remember one of the phrases I used to say when I was attending the VNI meetings. 50,000 penalty भरनी है क्या? Right? नहीं ना. So that is what I used to say. So the penalties for non-compliance, if you don't have a committee in place, you don't have act on the recommendations of the committee, you don't file your annual reports, or you fail to follow the provisions of the act, it's a non-compliance. The penalty for the first time offense can be up to rupees 50,000. You repeat the same offense, it can be twice or more. It can also lead to cancellation of your business license.
Oh,
And
okay.
if your business is
That's
dear to
serious.
you, if your business is dear to you, please ensure you are POSH compliant. It's not difficult at all. Apart from this, companies, you see, companies have to submit an director's report which goes to the registrar of companies.
Right.
So there is a clause in that the company has complied with the provisions of the POSH Act. Now, in case if a company fails to follow the various compliances, there is a penalty for the company because it's a legal entity. So the penalty for the company can be from anywhere from rupees 50,000 to 25 lakhs. Plus those persons who are in default of this compliance, there can be imprisonment for a period of up to 3 years and fine from rupees 50,000 to 5 lakhs or both. This is over and above the POSH Act. If you are a registered company under the Companies Act, these are the provisions also, plus labor law also. So when the labor inspector comes in, you see, he is checking under the provisions of the Shops and Establishment Act. There's a particular form which has to be filled, which is Form R. In that, you have a question whether the company has complied with the provisions of the POSH Act, who is the presiding officer, whether names of IC members are displayed or not, all those things. So it impacts in all these three legal provisions.
Okay.
So it's very important to follow it.
Okay. And what is in your experience, what has been the trend? I mean, do our companies and organizations who need to follow it, are they following it? I mean, what is your experience so far?
Okay. Okay, let me also add on some more things, on how it can impact. Number
Yeah.
one, company name gets spoilt. If any
Right.
complaint goes out, if the woman goes to the police and files a complaint, it comes in the public domain. So
Right.
the company name gets, reputation gets spoiled. Clients don't
Right.
want to work with you. You're a non-compliant company. Clients don't want to work with you. Women don't want to work with you. You will have difficulty retaining good talent. You will have attrition. Women will just leave.
True.
There is a loss of trust, loss of productivity, loss of motivation, heavy penalties. So it
And we
makes
all
more
know
sense.
how your name gets ruined, and we've seen
You are
from big
doing brand
companies
building and PR and all to build up the brand.
very
A
often,
simple
yeah,
thing like this comes in the media. All
फिर
your
तो
efforts are in vain.
फिर फिर तो संध्या क्या मैं भी नहीं बचा पाऊंगा
Yeah, right.
True.
So very important that you, follow. It makes economic sense to follow this because the cost of non-compliance is very, very heavy.
Okay, so started this consulting or POSH consulting post retirement. I mean, like I said, I mean, that's one of the things that inspired me. And I have great deal of respect for you for that. So, can you tell us what led to this? I mean, you've told me when we've met before, but I
Okay.
want others to know why and how did you get into this? What made you start this? You could have very well, had enjoyed your post-retirement life, but why did
Absolutely.
you start this? Please tell us.
So there is a trigger which comes in, right?
Right.
Now, in my case, there was an incident which happened with a security guard. He was going on leave and he left a note for a woman employee that I'm going on leave for 15 days. I've kept some chocolates for you. I will miss you. God bless you. Take care of yourself. Now, these 4, 5 lines he wrote and he put it in a jacket which was lying on the chair, and the woman employee was not there. So, when she came in on Monday morning, she saw that note and obviously she was disturbed. Why is this guard writing, I will miss you, and all? So, she was not happy about it at all. And she went and complained to her manager. The manager brought it to my notice because security came under me. I was working as a director administration
Yeah.
for an IT company. So she brought it to me, and I wrote to the agency saying that we don't want this guard on our premises. Can you please transfer him? Now, instead of transferring him, they fired him. He lost his job. Now, I realized that, we are doing our trainings for POSH in English. I thought that had we done it in Hindi, probably this man wouldn't have lost his job. So I volunteered to do trainings in Hindi. And when I did the training, it was attended by cafeteria staff, housekeeping, electricians, security guards, office boys, everybody attended. And they really liked the session. And they said, Madam, next month bhi hamare liye karo. So I started doing sessions across all the offices of my company, and I realized that this is something I enjoy doing. And I thought to myself that in 2 years I will retire. So why don't I look at it seriously post my retirement as a second career? Because knowing me, I know I'm not going to sit quiet. I'll want to do something or the other. So why don't I look at it seriously? And then I started studying further. So I did the executive certification. I had a master's in law in any case. So I felt that it would let me go back to law. Two, I would be doing something for the cause of women. Three, I could work my own hours. I didn't have, was not, punching a clock from 9 to 6 or something. I could work my own hours. Four, it was mandatory compliance. So there is always going to be a demand. So I thought about all these things. I mean, it was a thoughtful decision. And I, joined this course, studied further, kept reading a lot. And I also did a train the trainer from Dale Carnegie. I attended a lot of competitor sessions to see what is it that they teach. And I created my own modules and I started doing, uh, you know, pro bono sessions for Lions Club, Rotary Club, etc. And that's how I built up my confidence. And by the time I retired in 2019, I had my own modules. I was absolutely ready to, launch my career. And thereafter, I got one company, the next company, and till date, all my clients are through word of mouth references. I don't do any marketing at all.
Okay, we'll take one question from Sakshi, which I think it's important that we cover this point also. So Sakshi Shetty has asked this question. Her question is: are there any digital platforms available for employees to confidentially report harassment under the POSH Act? So
So,
when
okay.
you file a
Yeah.
complaint, it obviously
Yes.
goes to the
Yes.
IC of that company. So
Correct.
is there any way one can do it confidentially, without even the next person sitting next to them
Okay.
don't know?
Okay. Interesting question. Now, companies generally create a dedicated email ID for the IC.
Yeah.
So, if a woman is facing harassment, she can send out a complaint to the IC of that organization. So, generally, it is IC at so and so organization.com. So, she can send out a complaint to that. What Sakshi is asking specifically is, can a person file an anonymous complaint? When you
Well, she
don't.
hasn't asked whether it's anonymous, but
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
let's assume it
So,
has to be
confident, when
anonymous.
she says confidentially, see, when you are filing a complaint, your name is there on
Yeah.
the complaint, right? Now, if there is a person who wants to complain but does not want her name to come up, you know, uh,
Right.
IC will not handle anonymous complaint. That
Okay.
is number
So it
one.
has to have a name. That's for sure.
Yes. But there is a way that IC will respond to that. If an anonymous complaint comes in, IC will write back to that email saying that please identify yourself. If you have any concerns, anything, please reach out to us, talk to us. You will not lose your job. Things will be kept confidential as much as
Right.
possible. So
No.
IC will counsel the person and convince that person to come forward and file a written complaint. So
So
IC.
it has to have a basic. I mean, it can't just be an
Yes,
anonymous.
yes, yes, yes. Because you see, at the end of the day, the person against whom the complaint is made should know whom he is fighting against, right? Or whom he
Right.
is defending her against. So has to know that.
Oh,
Just like in a court of law, when
yeah,
you file a
absolutely.
complaint, the person gets to know who is the person who's filed the complaint, right?
Okay. So, and another question I had, after listening to your security guard example, is so, I think there should be a lot of education of men first, basically,
Yes,
because
yes,
there could be, I mean, from what you're telling me about the security guard, it sounded very innocent act on his part. I mean, may or may not
yeah,
have been, but it sounded
correct,
very
correct.
innocent. That he
Yeah,
genuinely probably liked this person and wanted to, show his appreciation or whatever, and left a note. Uh, maybe maybe that person was kinder to him versus other people.
yes,
Typically
yes,
that
yes,
happens. Then,
yes,
but this person, the security guard, didn't know that such an act
correct,
can be construed
correct.
as so. And that can be a genuine problem with many other men in the organization. So how does that get taken care of? I mean, are there sessions for men? I mean, how do you
Okay,
or
so when
are these 440,000 people that you have trained, are most of them men? I mean, how does that work?
oh, major chunk are men.
Okay. Okay.
Major chunk of men because it all depends on the organization. I do a joint session with men and women both. So there are basically five forms of harassment. One is
Right.
physical contact. So touching somebody inappropriately,
Mm.
touching them without a consent, touching somebody's hair, clothing, body. All these are examples of physical contact. Second one is so if you're doing something like that, some people have a habit of putting an arm around the shoulders and talking or keeping on touching when they are speaking to somebody.
Right.
So if you're talking to a woman, if you have this habit, please refrain it, from doing that. Don't do that because the
Okay.
other person may not be comfortable with it, right?
Right.
So that is one. Second is showing pornography, showing something which is sexually explicit to the person can give
Right.
rise to complaints. Then the third one is making sexually colored remarks. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think they are very cool when they use terms like hot and sexy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It lands them into trouble. I know of a case where the person said, hey, this is really hot, and the woman felt very offended and she filed a complaint, right? So, you want to appreciate, you can appreciate using other words. You can say, oh, this is a fantastic dress, you look lovely, or it's a lovely smile, or beautiful, you look gorgeous, or you look beautiful, but avoid using words like sexy and hot and F word. F word is a sexually colored remark. There was a
Good.
judgment where the person was punished, put behind bars, because he said F off. So the court said it's a sexually colored remark. The person was punished. So the kind of words that you use, you have to be cautious about what words you use. Right? That is third. Fourth is demand or request for sexual favors, repeatedly asking somebody out for a date, you know, asking a particular person. She's made it very clear she's not interested. You keep on persisting. Men tend to think कि दो बार ना बोला तीसरी बार तो हाँ बोलेगी और तीसरी बार शिकायत कर देगी, right?
Good.
So that is also possible. So demand or request for sexual favors is the fourth one, and any other unwelcome behavior which is sexual in nature. So staring at a woman, winking at her, sending her a flying kiss, standing too close, blocking her way, you know, all these are other examples. So making sexual gestures with your face or body. So all these are examples. This is the last form of harassment. So if you're indulging in any of these, the woman can go ahead and file a complaint.
Right.
So there's nothing to be afraid of or anything. As long as you know what are your limits, it's absolutely fine. There's no worries. And even if ever there is a complaint which is filed, just because a woman has filed a complaint against you doesn't mean you're guilty. You
Right.
are innocent till proven guilty. So the IC will give you an opportunity to, you will get a copy of the complaint. You will be heard. You are giving an opportunity to respond to the complaint. IC will conduct an inquiry, will hear you out. What is it that you have to say? Look at all the evidences and then decide. But men tend to get into these kind of situations over silly things.
Yeah.
Using, they think it's
So
very cool to
that's what
use
I
certain
mean.
words.
Some of those are very clear. I mean, those are
Yeah,
clear
yeah,
no.
yeah,
But some
yeah.
of these are, are a very gray area. I mean, I wouldn't say they are
Correct.
right or wrong, but they can be a little gray in terms of meant this, didn't mean that, the way somebody looks, or
Yeah, yeah.
that can be a little tricky at times.
So under the POSH Act, intention doesn't matter. The person will say, "Hey, I had no intention to harass
Correct.
you," but that will not work as a defense. Whether the person intended or did not intend doesn't matter. What matters is the impact.
So
So when we
that's the
do the
crucial bit.
yes. So when
Impact
we
is the
do the
crucial bit.
yes, so when we do the trainings for employees, we tell the women, if you don't like someone's behavior, you please tell them that you don't like it. Right? Don't wait and file a complaint. So tell the person, I don't like it. The person will not do it again. So this is how you nip it in the bud, rather than bottling it and then filing a complaint. So tell the
Right.
person you don't like it, and that's it. Another example I would like to tell you: use of emojis. Everybody uses emojis,
Yeah,
right?
that's the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. So at times one uses inappropriate emojis, like, a flying kiss emoji, which has got a heart near the lips,
Yeah.
right? Or a emoji with three hearts. Now, each of these emojis has a specific meaning. When you use an emoji, it is as good as you typing, I am sending you a flying kiss. And the other person may not be comfortable. So, in your official conversations, please stick to smileys, thumbs up, and folded hands. You'll never go wrong.
Okay.
You'll never
That's
go
true.
wrong.
No, but I'm glad you mentioned this because, see, very often, as somebody might just do it innocuously without realizing. And then, a lot of time gets wasted in the process of, trying to redress the situation. Eventually, nothing will turn off. But, imagine the number of hours lost in trying to, only because that person didn't know it. So
So be
that's
cautious when you're using emojis.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I'll take one more question from the community before we move on. Uh, so this question is from Julie. The question is, do companies follow the act or they push the victim to remain silent so their reputation is not ruined? Have you seen any such cases? You alluded to that before, but have you yourself seen such cases where
So you have all kinds of companies. Every company is not same. Everybody is different. You have companies which generally follow the spirit of the law, really trying genuinely to create a safe workplace. There are some who follow the letter of the law, just do a checkbox compliance, you know, just do some bare basics and not really bother. There are some who will push it under the carpet, try to get rid of the employee so that things don't go ahead. Now, I would like to bring something new that has come in. It was there earlier, but it has come up right again now. So if you go to the Shebox site, if you go to the Google and you type Shebox, on the website of the Ministry of Women and Child Development, there is a single window tab called as Shebox.
yeah,
A woman who is working in a government organization or a central government organization or a private sector, she
right,
can go there and file a complaint, right? So if you are working in an organization where you think the organization will push it under the carpet, or the person who is the harasser is in a very senior position, no action would be taken, you have no faith on the organization or on the IC, easily you could go to Shebox and file a complaint. Now, when you put in a complaint there, the ministry will forward the complaint to the organization and the ministry follows up with the organization. So that is what you could do. So you have all kinds of organizations. Some will not really bother. Who wants to get into the headache of handling a complaint? They don't want to. The easiest thing is to get rid of the employee. So there are organizations which do that.
okay.
But those terminations are illegal.
Okay, another question which Siddhi had, which was there at my mind, but I didn't ask you earlier. So Siddhi Dubey is asking, I wanted to know, can someone report harassment if they were not directly affected but had witnessed it.
Yes, very true. So, if supposing you witness an incident of sexual harassment, what is it that you need to do? Number one, get the victim out of the scenario. Encourage her to file a complaint. Whatever you have seen, you have observed, make a note of it. You can send it across to HR saying this is what I have observed. That same statement could even be used by the complainant, the victim, when she's filing a complaint. She can say she saw this. She's an eyewitness to this whole thing. So
Right.
do that. The fourth point is do not spread rumors. You have observed something, you will tell another person. She will add another 2 points to it and tell the third person. By the time the day is over, everybody is talking about the whole thing. It causes a lot of embarrassment and mental trauma to the victim. So, whatever you've observed, make a note of it. Tell the girl, the victim who's there, that I have seen this. This is what I have seen. You can even share that with HR and
But the
take it.
complaint has to be filed by the person who has. That's very
So
clear.
the victim, so the person who's affected, so the victim has to file a complaint. She is the one who's affected, so she has to file a complaint.
Oh,
The
not
act
not by the
has
witness, not by the.
no, she can report it that this is what I have seen.
Okay.
And then if supposing she has not filed a complaint, HR will call her that this has happened. There is a forum. If you want, you can go ahead and file a complaint. So
Oh,
HR will sort of tell her that, or maybe somebody from the IC can also tell her.
okay. So let's come to the main reason why we are having a discussion on that. This whole podcast is about business networking, and you've been a business networker yourself over the years. So we were in the same chapter in BNI, and you were a member of BNI as well. So tell us your journey as a business networker, and how has it helped you in your journey as a POSH consultant?
So, Vipul, while from 2017, where I was preparing for, being a POSH trainer and a consultant, and I was building up my skills, I was invited by various forums like Rotary Club, Lions Club, etc. And thereafter also by Institute of Company Secretaries of India. So I was invited by them as a part of BNI also.
Okay.
One thing that I followed, even if it's a pro bono session, I did give it my 100%.
Yeah.
There was no compromise in the quality of the
Oh,
content that I delivered.
yeah.
So even if it was a pro bono session, I did not do a shortcut. I delivered as I would if it was a paid session. And that is what has brought me rewards. People who have attended those pro bono sessions have referred me to their organizations, and I have got clients from there. So, and even now, today, I mean, I deliver lectures, I talk about POSH. People, they appreciate it. And in case, you have HR groups, so they'll say, do you know somebody who's into this space? And they would give my name, and I get calls on a daily basis. So that's how it works. So you have to do full justice to the topic you're delivering. Ensure that you have quality. See, people are not fools. They realize what you're delivering, what is the amount of information you're sharing, whether you're giving the knowledge generously or not. There are people who will not give generously. It's a pro bono session, so they'll only talk limited stuff and not talk about all of it. So that is important, giving generously, and that brings in a lot of returns.
Very well said. Very well said. Giving generously is important, because that somebody will see it, and then it will come back to you in some other way, like you yourself mentioned.
It comes
You
back
get
10
referred
times.
almost every day, which
Yes.
is which is
Yes.
amazing. Okay, so coming back to the POSH Act, I mean, do you think the POSH Act, the way we have it, is enough? I mean, do you think it needs to get stronger? Do you think maybe it should become gender neutral? I mean, I don't know. You are a practitioner
A
in the
lot
field,
of
so you may
things.
have a lot of views on it.
So it definitely needs to change. A lot of changes are required. As of now, I don't want to use the word toothless tiger, but there needs to be more. So, couple of things that I can tell you about is that number one, the act should be gender neutral. Why is, times have changed. 10, 11 years have passed. It is high time that it becomes gender neutral. Secondly, the act is not elaborate enough. Like the act is casting a responsibility on the employer to create a safe workplace. What is a safe workplace is nowhere defined. Then it also talks about, there is an underreporting of complaints Third is that there is no provision for mandatory audits every year. So are there audits happening? Like in for companies and all, you have audits. So are there audits actually happening? There are tons of companies who are not bothered about POSH compliance. Most of them you will find in the MSME sector because they are small. So they sort of maybe don't take it so seriously. There, of course, not everybody is like that. There are some who are very particular about all that. Then there is a, we talk about, the act has the, the POSH IC committee has the, IC has the powers of a civil court. If you were to look at the civil procedure code, it is a very detailed document, right? It is a very detailed document, has a lot of provisions. The POSH Act has only 30 sections and 14 rules, which is not enough. There are so many areas which are gray areas which need to be elaborated. Though it has been left to the IC to, go ahead with the inquiry. The Ministry of Women and Child Development has published a handbook, but even that is not enough. There needs to be much more, right? Now, say for example, there is no clarity or in the act whether it will be applicable to clubs or voluntary organizations.
True.
Now, say for example, you talk of BNI, you talk about Rotary Club, you talk about Lions Club. There are thousands of members. They interact with each other. Now, is this applicable to them or not? There is not much of clarity, right? So there needs to be a lot more clarity, detailing, so that everything is spelled out. This is the process that you need to follow. These are the things that need to be in place. As of now, it is not enough.
Although I think to be and just to set the record straight, I think VNI has adopted the POSH method, as well as Rotary. Some of the clubs have adopted POSH.
But is it mandatory? They have adopted
It's
it
not mandatory,
voluntarily.
but they are
Exactly.
following it as a good practice.
Exactly. So it should be
It's not
made
mandatory.
mandatory.
It's not mandatory and
Exactly. They are following it because they felt it is necessary to follow it. But tomorrow, if they decide enough is enough, we don't want to follow it.
Yeah, I don't think there is any law in that sense which is there.
Correct.
And which is what I wanted to also express my view. I mean, in the sense that it's unfortunate that we need to have a law. That's what I feel personally.
Yeah.
That, I mean, with the changing demographics in the office, workplace, I mean, I think it should come naturally to us to make it safer. And it's incumbent upon all of us, whether we are the employers or the employees or colleagues, we need to make it a safer place to work. And it's our responsibility. And leaving everything to the law can also be a little, something that doesn't sit well. I mean, we say that why should everything be designed by the laws? That's my view.
So, if there is a signal which is red, there is no policeman standing. Haven't we seen cases where the person is racing his car ahead? Right? So the law acts as a deterrent. People come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different, social outlook. And that is the reason why, and at the end of the day, society is still continues to be patriarchal. Not everybody is open-minded or thinks that, women deserve this kind of equal status. Even now, in so many houses, the men eat first, the women eat later. So that needs to change. If I were to ask you, Vipul, that if you have to take a gift for a 2-year-old boy, what is it that you will take? Invariably, the answer is I will take a car, I will take a truck, right? And if you ask the same question if I were to ask the same question, if it's a baby girl, what will you take? I'll take a frock, I'll take a doll. Why did you not think of taking a truck for a girl? Why did you not think of taking a doll for a boy? It is our own conditioning, programming, which happens since the time we are born. It's a boy, okay, take a blue colored outfit. If it's a girl, take a pink colored one. So this is what you call as gender, the programming that we have in our minds. So that needs to change. So that once that changes, things will change. Till then, we need the law.
So thank you very much, Sandya, for sparing the time. I know you have a fantastic shloka, which you mentioned to me. So why don't we finish this lovely conversation with that shloka?
So I want to say that yatra naryastu pujyante ramantre tatra devata. Where women are worshipped, there live the gods. Yatraitastu na pujyante sarvasta trafala kriya. Where they are not worshipped, all actions result in failure. So wherever a woman is worshipped, you will always see prosperity, and you will see growth, you will see abundance, and you will see happiness.
Isn't that really, really true? So, on this very knowledgeable note, and we thank you very much for your time. I think uh, there should be more people like you, more strength to you as you take your message out into the open. Let's try and make this world a much better place to work, safer for women and men, of course, because like you said, net gender neutrality. So let's try and make this more gender safer and productive for all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.